We're back to give you the legal edge. Major changes are coming to Michigan's auto insurance system next month. Last week, I sat down with attorney Bryan Waldman from the Sinus Dramus law firm to talk about some of the coverage options you have moving forward and why it's really important to think about the medical coverage you want. But tonight, we're diving into what could happen if you cause the crash. Well, Bryan, thanks as always for being here. Are there any other changes to the auto insurance law that we need to know about here in Michigan?
There's plenty of changes, Siobhan, and one that's very important is the impact on what's called liability claims. That's a lawsuit against the at-fault driver.
Okay.
In the past, someone who was involved in a collision and was injured got all their medical expenses paid for by their own no-fault policy, typically.
Right.
We talked about last week, a person can now opt for caps on that coverage, say, for example, $250,000. So if they had medical expenses of $1 million at the hospital and only had $250,000 worth of coverage, they can now bring a lawsuit against the at-fault driver that includes a claim for the additional $750,000 of medical expenses. So it really increases the exposure and the importance of getting the correct liability coverage.
So what does that mean then for vehicle owners that are buying insurance now?
A lot of people don't like to think that they're the ones who could rent a red light or a stop sign or maybe be inattentive and rear-end someone, but really it can happen to anyone. And it's not only what you do, but it's what anyone who uses your vehicle can do. So your children, or even if you loan your vehicle to a friend. So you really need to make sure you buy the right type of coverage, and this is typically called liability or bodily injury coverage, depending on which carrier you use.
How do you ask for this kind of coverage, and how do you go about doing that?
My recommendation for people is that they try to purchase at least $500,000 worth of liability or bodily injury coverage. And if you're a person who has significant assets, you want to protect those assets because everything above insurance is a claim against your own personal assets. So if you've got significant assets, you ought to be looking at more liability coverage, maybe even something called an umbrella policy that you should talk to your agent about.
Anything else, any other coverages that people should consider?
There's a very important optional coverages called uninsured and underinsured motorist claims. And that's when the at-fault driver is someone else and they injure you or a family member. But maybe they don't have enough coverage. You're essentially buying coverage for them. And that's called uninsured and underinsured if they don't have any policy or if their policy just isn't big enough. It's very affordable for what you get, in my opinion. It's well worth the money and some of the smartest coverage you can buy.
All right, Bryan, thank you. As always, we appreciate you giving us the legal edge and the heads up on this hefty topic.
Thank you.